Untitled Broadcast.
Ahoy, mateys! Welcome to the KFC Pop experience. I am your host, KFC Pop.
No, please, no, just no. I'm not gonna give free advertisement if we're not gonna get paid, man. That's not how the world works. I'm telling you. So Ivan, you're gonna have to take a back seat because I'm taking over this. No way.
KFC experience.
No way. What's up, guys? What's up, Pirate Family? This is your captain speaking. You're watching the Privateer broadcast. As always, I'm your host, Melinda, aka Soul, and joining me is my freaking ludicrous co-host, Captain KFC Pop, aka Ivan.
What's up, everyone?
As usual, we have our VIP guest as well, Brian, aka Daryl, the world's biggest prick.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Yep. Yeah, you'll know why in a second there. And we also have a special guest joining us today. My good friend, I've known him since I was 3 years old. One of my closest friends, Mr. Dea Singh. He's a AAA developer. He's worked for. Can I say that the studios he worked for, Dea? Is that cool?
Yeah, you can work.
So he's worked for Amazon Game Studios. He's worked for what else have you worked for, Dea?
I worked a little bit on Magic the Gathering Arena before it was actually called that. So
right.
Wizards of the Coast, and then right now I'm at Meta.
Right. Now he's working for Mark Zuckerberg at Meta. Interesting.
Yeah.
So we got a high-profile individual here, sir. Right. So this segment's going to be a little bit different today. So we're going to talk about Dea's experience, how he has been working in the industry and all that. I guess some feedback and background and all that. And he's going to give some tips. If you want to get into game development, if you're fresh blood like us, well, we're going for a couple of years now, but obviously we're still kind of newbies. So,
yeah.
If he's got share some of his grand wisdom he's got for us, and we'll kind of launch into the news segments and just talk about the topics today and get his feedback on that as well. So, Mr. Dale, we'll take it away from here.
I guess just start introduction. I guess what are you doing in that or in the company you work in? Where are you currently working in again?
So I work for a team called Sanzaru. They were a studio before they got bought out by Oculus. So now they're a first-party Oculus studio.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're working on VR projects. I can't say more than that, unfortunately, right now.
No worries. Man's on the NDA. No worries. It's all good, man. I can respect that for sure. For sure.
Is that part of if someone wants to go into AAA industry, that's part of the job, not to say much about your projects?
Yeah, I mean, it is a very common thing. It gets a lot easier as soon as things get announced. I literally was in a meeting yesterday, asked my manager when we'll announce our game, because I do want to talk about it, but it's one of those things where I like to err on the side of safety or trust, at least, But yeah, I really do want to talk about my game and the thing I'm working on right now, because I think it is really cool and I'm really excited about it. But I just have to wait till that first trailer pops at some point.
Damn it, man! The wait, man. The wait.
How long we gotta wait?
No, I don't even know if we've made marketing material yet. I think we're at a point where we could make marketing material, but I don't think they've actually gone through and made some of those assets or those trailers or anything like that so far.
Bro, you're like the freaking the one of the two guys that has the recipe for Coca-Cola or whatever. You're sworn to secrecy. Got all these secrets. Got to take these separate planes, separate entourage and everything.
It is what it is, baby.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
So, bro, tell us a bit about your history in terms of game development as well. Is it something you've always wanted to do? What was your original plan A, or was it a kind of a plan B, and you kind of switched over? What's the story behind that?
So it's kind of funny because it kind of starts on when the last time we actually hung out a lot in person, which was high school, right?
Yeah. He's referring to myself and there as well. We're in high school together. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, when I was a freshman, about through freshman through junior year, so through 9th and 11th grade, I wasn't actually thinking about game development. I was kind of looking at the skills that I had. I knew that I had really good math skills because I was really advanced in that. I like the idea of working with computers and technology, but I was just a gamer, right? At the end of the day, it was that's the thing I spent a lot of time on, was my preferred way to relax and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
While looking at careers, I thought about automotive design for a hot second. I thought about architecture and drafting and stuff like that. And none of those things really spoke to me. But as we got into senior year, and I was I really need to nail down what I want to do here. And I was I had heard from another friend about a school local to us here in Washington called DigiPen.
Right.
And DigiPen had summer camp programs where you would do exactly that. You would actually do game development in their own proprietary engine, and you got to in a few weeks you essentially got to make a game. And I never got to do that thing personally, but I was like, I heard that they actually had a whole entire school dedicated to that, and I was like, well, I know what a game looks like to me. When I'm playing a game as a gamer, I understand like what I'm doing, but how does that translate from a production standpoint? Like what goes into making one of those? And I realized that like programming is a huge part of it, which is weird to say in retrospect because you're like, yeah, duh, it runs on a fucking computer. Like I should know these things already.
For sure, man. Yeah.
But yeah, I had to bridge that gap of realizing that there is something that talks to all these different components of a computer to be able to render the thing you're actually doing on screen. And I realized, I was like, I'm good at math. I'm fairly tech savvy for at least for my age at the time. And so I was like, where was the happy marriage here?
Yeah,
like, yeah. You know what? I'm going to learn to program. That sounds like something I'm interested in. And it's a skill set that is also applicable outside of games, right? It's not just a game specific skill set. And that's what I got into.
Right. Was that which? Oh, sorry, Ivan. Go ahead.
I was gonna say like that kind of speaks to me too because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was growing up in high school. Like I think at first I wanted to be a doctor, and then I tried coding, and I kind of enjoy that, but I just never took like video games and really that serious, like in terms of like an art form. Until I think I got like to a class called Humanities where they teach us like different mediums of arts and all that, and I'm like, maybe video game can be an artwork, and and I wrote like a research paper on that, and like can video games be an art form? Because I know that Roger Ebert, I think that's his name, he criticized video games like video games cannot be an art because you have control on this, and it's like chess in a way, like chess can't be an art, so therefore video games cannot be an art as well. But that's like two different things, and at least that's my argument.
I would even say I would argue that's reductive, right? Because I can see the art form in chess, especially when you think about the total number of moves that someone makes.
For sure, man.
Still I was gonna mention that there's also like ballerina where they judge you like in places, and like that's considered an art, right? Still, but and yet they're still being judged like in like how they do it and everything, with points and everything.
It's
interesting. Like, it can't be that.
This interesting that he says that video games is an art form, even though freaking most movies these days are heavily borrowing so much in the CGI aspect. They might as well even be considered a freaking video game at this point. Literally, the only difference between a video game like a movie that's so heavily CGI'd would literally be, you don't have a control in your hand, right? It's like the difference between sitting in the audience and having a control in your hand, but you have that creative control when you're playing a video game, and that's just, like Kojima says as well. Hideo Kojima, he says so much about. That's the advantage I feel like that video games have over the movie art form, is that you're so immersed in the experience, you have a control over the aspect, over the outcome.
Yeah. I think that's always the great thing when video games could put gameplay and because there's certain games like you're less control of the situation, and then there's other games you have more control of the situation with gameplay. I think if they can put those together, I think you can create something interesting. Like you're more like part of the more part of the show, like than like the acting rather than the as an audience, right? I think that's actually kind of translate more
passive versus what's the other opposite of passive?
Active.
Yeah. I gave that analogy in my research paper. Like I think people need to explore more in video games in terms of art, because you have the ability to put the people, like your audience, into this world, and I think that's very unique and that movies cannot do. There's books that I think there's even some movies. I think what was that Black Mirror, that they need to try to like do an interactive.
I think so. Yeah, I've heard about it.
Try to involve the audience.
Bandersnatch.
Yeah, but I think video games does it way better for those things. So yeah.
And like there's a spectrum to that idea too, right? Like where you have Bandersnatch, which is the interactive movie that they did for Black Mirror, and then if you go up a little bit further down the line, you'll see something that like if you guys remember Telltale Games, they did a lot of stuff with, like
for sure, man.
Walking Dead, or like the Batman game and all these other stuff that they worked on, all these other different properties. And then as you keep going, you get up to things like there's Red Dead, or there's something that even gets more expressive than that, where you have like fighting games and stuff where like you are essentially in charge of making your own movie of victory and loss and all this other stuff, and there's like a player story that can even come out of not just the game, but your experience as a player inside that scene and stuff like that.
Even the abstract, like Shadow of the Colossus, which features like virtually no dialogue at all, and it's all just expressive. The aesthetic,
I couldn't take someone seriously if they were to say that Shadow of the Colossus is an art like that. I would find that statement almost offensive to me.
I think that's already one of the best example in gameplay and be involved with the arts, right?
Yeah, minimal cutscenes. Literally, it's just like open world. It's so to speak, open world. But yeah,
you feel the character and the struggle because you're fighting these freaking ginormous colossus, and you're trying to figure out how do I take this freaking guy down, and that's what brings that emotion and that like, oh my gosh, and especially when that spoiler alert, your horse dies, at the very end. If you haven't played it yet, you should.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster, man. It's a big plot twist as well, but like the whole experience it's a memorable experience. If you want to play a video game that really pushes that threshold of art form, that's one to check out, man, because it's all about feeling and expression. Literally, open world, the music, the aesthetic, the gameplay. It's all just a combination of various things.
Even the control scheme, I think that game still is one of the best control schemes ever made.
It's so simple. It's so simple. Yeah, it's straightforward.
So as I'm talking about all those things, and it gets me excited. How does one person get into the AAA industry?
There's a lot of routes. I've met a lot of different people that work on a lot of different aspects of a game. When it comes to the AAA industry, I think for me, and I think a lot of people that I've talked to, it's all about identifying where your contribution would go. And that's kind of a mindset you have to have with AAA games in general, is that you're not, like, when it comes to an indie project or something, you're forced to wear a lot of hats. You have to be your own producer. You sometimes have to be your own programmer. You have to be your own artist. You have to be your own audio guy. But in AAA, it's the exact opposite emphasis, where it's like, what are you the best at? And how do you take that best skill and pump it back into the game? So when you have 300 people working on the same project, that skill is reflective and you feel your contribution to that thing, even if you're only 0.3% of the total team, right? So,
yeah,
that's where it really comes down to.
So if I want to get in the AAA industry, do I have to go to college or anything like that, or
not anymore? Honestly, not anymore. Especially if you're from the tech perspective, it's super helpful to have a degree. Like, I'm not going to tell you that I definitely have had a lot of advantages because of the degree I have.
Yeah.
But I have met a lot of people in AAA games. One of my best friends and a coworker that I worked on at Amazon was she was self-taught. She never went to school a day in her life outside of high school, And she was a UI programmer, and she did really well. She was a very good programmer too, and she got paid a lot. And her life was a lot easier for it because I have loans to worry about and she didn't, and she made it that way. But that way is also tough, right? Like,
oh yeah, man,
when you're in an interview, and you're being asked all these technical skills, like, yes, my book knowledge was super helpful in getting past the interview phase of it. But there is a sense of creativity that you still have to have, especially when answering those interview questions. So it's a balance of a lot of things, and I think that it does highlight how it can be tough to get into the industry, but I would not say it's necessarily extremely tough to get in the industry, especially as time moves on.
Of course, when you're I freaking just lost my train of thought. When you go to college, you can get involved in these projects early on as well and build your portfolio, right?
So I've actually I was thinking about this before this interview. I've technically been making games for almost 9 years now because DigiPen had a big emphasis on making you make a game almost every single year.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the big advantages of going there, is that like they do put you to the grindstone. It's an advantage and a disadvantage where it will drive people crazy. A lot of people will have a tough time mentally, on the will aspect of it, getting through that. And I don't think that some of their student teacher practices are some of the best. Like, there's been a lot of criticism for that, and I think that's very valid criticism. But yeah, I cannot deny the results, right? I feel a lot more experience than some of my peers that are coming out of college and getting into the industry, stuff like that. And having all those projects under my belt makes it hard. It makes it easier to talk about in interviews because I have stories that sound like AAA game development stories already under my belt.
Yeah, I mean, you got access to all those resources, right? Like the VR tech and everything. I mean, I think that was one of your major high school projects, wasn't it?
My senior project for college was a VR game project, which I think is a huge contributing factor to the work I do today, honestly. And it's crazy to see how much has changed in such a short amount of time. That project I made in 2016, 2017, and like seeing how, because we were on the bleeding edge at the time, right? The HTC Vive had just come out, and we were kind of understanding what the relationship between the different game engines and Unreal and the different game engines and the VR technology was like, and those things weren't integrated perfectly like they are today.
Yeah.
The ease it is to make a VR game in Unity and Unreal today compared to even just 5 years ago is ridiculous. Like the industry's moving fast.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I bet.
We talk about like our very first episode was the new Unreal Engine, like how and it's just so it seems to be much more easier for anyone to start out if they really want to get into the video game development, because you even have like a big library of I think it's free, of a library of like scanned assets like that are scanned, like looks like hyper realistic and texture and all that. And it just looks so. Oh, you even have access to the freaking Matrix cityscape now too.
Yep.
And it's like you get to experiment and everything, and you can kind of like, okay, what happened if I do this? What happened if I do that? That sort of thing, and then you can kind of learn there.
It's all like visual based, like we were hoping. I mean, like with ClickTeam, because me and Ivan obviously we work with ClickTeam Fusion, the same engine that spawned the popular Five Nights at Freddy game, but obviously for us, we'd like for that to be like more visual based and all that. It'd be easier for that. And Unreal Engine 5, it's so much easier now, right? Because you can create all these scenes and stuff like in Blender almost everything.
Yeah, crazy. I would be careful not to say like, oh, it's so easy to make a video game. Like it's easier to get into. I would put it that way, and easier to sell your games as well. Because especially nowadays, you don't really need a publisher to send out your games and probably be successful. I think as long as you have like an interesting concept, right? You know, that you can bring something unique, and if people see that and promote it, like sort of similar to like Among Us, right? You know, it has this like social experiment type of thing going. But you know, video games is tough. You know, making video games is very tough.
Yeah, just one thing I want to ask you as well. So going back to building experience and all that, you know, we took the route of being self-taught. Like, do you feel there's a significant advantage over being college and you know, having access to all that tech when you build your portfolio over like us doing game jams, for example? Obviously, we have access to a lot of multifaceted talent from different people flying in from different countries to do these game jams. Like the previous game jam I did, there was like a group of people that came from New Zealand just for the game jam in London, man. So that's crazy.
By the way, do you mind if I try this? Someone brought up a good question. So someone in the chat says, Mark, what's a good game engine for VR?
Right now, I mean, to get up and running is really easy with Unity and Unreal, both of them. Unreal, there's a few more hurdles, I would feel like. I feel like to do anything interesting in Unreal, it does take a little bit more of a programming background. I like the nodes and stuff and in Blueprint are very strong, but like I think that you'll have an easier time manipulating everything in for VR in Unity, and that could just be my personal experience speaking, because I've worked more in Unity, so it's hard to say.
Right.
Same here. I think Unity has a much bigger like a community with with education. Although I think Unreal is kind of getting there though. Like they even have their own website that has like community base where you can post your own questions and like, all right, how do I do this and that, that sort of thing.
It feels like do you feel like it's more popular, you guys, just in general, both of you?
I think it's actually, some of it comes from their origins, right? Unreal was made by Epic to be used mostly in-house, and then they licensed it out with Unreal 3 back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was, the engine was very much designed around being a first-person shooter engine. So like Unreal 3 specifically had a lot of hurdles where you would have to do a lot of stuff on the front end of your project to make it, if you're going to do something in third person, to get, to make that stuff work. They've eased that over time. So Unreal 4 and Unreal 5 seem to have a lot less of those holdings, but there still is some of those issues. Whereas Unity was, when Unity was being put together, it was very much a community-based idea before they became a corporation and stuff like that. So like I think that spread. Yeah, Unity was actually just a collection of libraries a long, like I'm talking like 10, 15 years ago that were something a similar. If you want to see a similar engine in development that has something similar to that, is Godot.
Oh yeah, I figured. For sure, man.
Yeah, it's very similar to that, but Godot now has I would say it's a slightly different experience because there's more technology out there to tie together, whereas Unity is kind of tightening their belts and starting to look more similar to Unreal in terms of how exposed their inner core is, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Mark had one last question, and it's actually a pretty good one too. My last question is, what would be a good VR headset to do game design in? I would say, in my opinion, I say Oculus Quest 2. Like, it's really cheap. You can use the link. I haven't fully tested, so let me just to give you a heads up. But I'm sure you can do it because I was able to get like the SDK kit for the Oculus Quest 2, and I can probably do like do my games in the Unity engine. I just haven't fully touched it yet, so but yeah, just kind of you know
I have
you
a
can
bit
probably
of a
look it up.
skewed perspective on that because um I don't know what I since I'm so early to this new team. I just started the job and the project I'm working on. It's been about almost 8 months now. I never had to do the front end of that work, so I don't know what it's like to set up development for the Quest 2. Because I don't know what I have access to from a meta level, like things that make it easier for us to get licenses and stuff like that that might not be available to the public. My experience with doing that at a student level was when we were using the HTC Vive, and Valve is pretty good about taking their technology, making it more easily accessible because they want people to be able to make games for whatever they're putting out there. And so when that partnership with HTC Vive in 2016 was a big deal. So right now it's hard for me to say if it is the Quest 2. I can see that perspective, and I think that I would like that perspective, but that could also just be the corporate in me talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
The reason I say Quest 2 is it's really cheap, and you have.
I do think
there.
it's cost effective. Yeah, it is definitely super cost effective.
What's
and,
the
self effective too?
What's the price, by the way? Just for the guys out there, we're interested.
Yeah, a base headline unit is $300. Yep.
Yeah. He's saying what about HP? I have no clue. I can't comment on that. But just maybe look it up, see if there's an SDK and if there's people making like development in for Unity for that headset. So that's the only thing I could say for that.
The biggest hurdle from starting a VR project is just understanding how to get your engine and your VR headset to interact with each other, I would say. And I think as soon as you get that figured out, a lot of the libraries and stuff are pretty strong after that.
And I'll say if the people want to make game development, I think you should guys look into development for VR because I think it's a lot easier nowadays, especially if you already have a Oculus Quest 2. And I think it's an interesting place to make your you can make probably something unique. Who knows in the VR world.
I mean, the industry is certainly trending towards VR for sure. It's getting way more like. I mean, stuff the Valve's been doing, especially with Half-Life Alyx, has kind of been blowing up now. So. For sure, yeah.
You do run into when you choose a platform like VR, you do run into very platform-specific design issues. There's also, from a programming perspective, there's a lot of issues there as well in terms of performance. If you want to make a good VR experience, the golden numbers, the numbers that a lot of people like to flaunt, is you have to have a minimum of 90 frames per second, and you're rendering essentially to two screens at once, so that target can get harder and harder to hit as you put more and more assets on the screen.
Yeah, so I guess something you got to keep in mind too. Yeah, that's I guess a good point.
Yeah,
I'm really touching like VR stuff, but I'll give you guys an update if I ever get to that point.
Hopefully, in the pipeline, we'll have something like that. Yeah.
But all right, well, let's move on. So I have like my I guess I can last thing we can say to do the interview while we move on to the news and all that is one of the things I worried about because we talked about this data is that. When I don't see myself joining like the AAA industry because the things I'm worried about is the work-life balance and the crunch, being crunched. Like you have to pull crunch hours and all that sort of thing. And my last thing I'm worried about is like a bad culture, like for example, like what's happening in Activision Blizzard, for example. So, what do you think about? What's your views on that?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, if you have to share everything, but obviously it is kind of controversial views here and there. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think?
Sorry, wait. Yeah, there we go on.
I was just going to say, not to mention corporate executives interfering with games that they know absolutely nothing about.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if someone says to you that, or the people who are like worried about those things. What do you say to that?
I would generally say that things are getting better, and that's been the trend as long as I've been in the AAA industry, which has been about half a decade now almost. I've only seen positive development in some of those areas. When it comes to, I'll start with the last thing first, the corporate executive thing. It's interesting because that's been an issue in games for a long ass time. And it's just like you like as you get older, you become more aware of those things. But back in the 90s, it was way more business corporate run. Even the 80s, right? When that was what caused the big video game crash of the 80s was the corporate executives just trying to pump product out because they think kids would buy anything, right?
Yeah.
But as time has moved on, the people that eventually make it up to those seats, like eventually make it up to the corporate and board seats nowadays, are people that grew up. They were adults of the games that we were playing when we were kids, right? And you also see this in game development where like there's a lot of games that are inspired by like Ocarina of Time is a great example. If you talk to a lot of directors of games nowadays, they'll always cite that as an example of something that they grew up in playing. So those things are definitely changing. Those attitudes are changing because the people that are making their way up to those board seats are people that actually did play games. But you know that shift is very slow. That's why we're seeing that change now in reflection of the games that were popular in the 90s, because those people finally got to the point where they can make it up to that board seat, right? So in 20 to 30 years, someone like me could be sitting in a board seat who had a different experience, right? And so those things are definitely going to shift, I think. For the work-life balance stuff, it's become too much of an issue that companies have to address it. I'm lucky. I'm lucky in the sense that I'm a programmer, so my work-life balance is usually a lot easier to maintain than say like a tester. QA people, I think, get the worst of it. Artists also get the worst of it because there is some misunderstanding about what their talents are, and I do think that a lot of those people are still underpaid, which I think is a weird statement to say out loud, because a lot of people, I've heard arguments where people are like, oh, like QA people are they don't have a skill set that deserves to get paid, or like whatever, and that's not true. That's not true at all. They work long and hard hours, and
for sure, man.
Their contributions are what's going to actually sell a video game to me at the end of the day, because if you don't have people playtesting your shit, it's just going to look worse and worse and worse as things come out. That's when you're going to run into all these, like, you know, think about every Bethesda game that's ever come out on launch, and that's after already going through a QA process, right? So think about how it is without a QA process involved, right? They contribute a lot of work to making sure a game actually functions properly. So I don't know. Well, we are on the cusp of a lot of changes, and it's always felt like that ever since I entered the industry. So I'm not sure if that's just the type of news I read or the mentality that I'm looking out for, or if that just happens to be a constant phenomenon in this time in history, right? So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I guess people would, in that same vein as well, they'd ask the question, like, being a part of that AAA kind of machine as well, how would that, with the work-life balance, how would that shift if you were trying to, like, kind of do your own outfit and do your own thing, like, be part of a smaller studio or indie studio, where you're kind of more like a close-knit team?
For me and the people that I want to work with in the future, like people I've talked to about maybe opening up our own studio at some point, it really does come down to the fact of like we're reflecting upon our worst moments, in the sense that like one of the moments we don't want to have that be part of our of the way that we looked at game development, stuff like that. So it's for us, it's like if we're bringing people under us, if we actually have enough money to lead a team and stuff like that, I can't imagine myself trying to push somebody to work more hours, especially if they don't like agree to it. It's different, right? Like a lot of game developers, you'll talk. They honestly just want to get paid overtime. They don't give like a fuck about like the longer hours sometimes, because they are people that are very passionate about what they do. It's more it turns into a problem of getting paid for it sometimes, right? So it's from company to company and person to person, it's a different argument for everybody, right? But yes, in the past, that culture has been destructive and horrible to people. But I think those things are now being reflected on and being slowly changed. But we'll see. It's hard to say. I can't speak to something that hasn't happened, right? So I have to look 5 years in the future somehow.
You feel like it's getting better overall, like in AAA, like it's not stagnating or anything?
I would say it's positive development.
Right.
Positive development.
But is it still? Are we still in the golden era for like indies for to show the talent? Are we still got kind of
no.
You don't think so?
No, I mean. The gold it depends on what you think of when you say the golden era of indies, right? If you talk to a lot of indie developers that made games, let's say 7 years ago, I think is a good number. A lot of them will talk about how all those markets are oversaturated now.
Oh yeah.
For a while, getting your game on Steam was like super hard, and if you got your game on Steam, that means there was a sense of quality to it. So if you're an indie game developer and you really believed in your product and you did make it to Steam, there was a good chance that it would do well, right? And then that got oversaturated because they made it easier to put games on Steam. And there's like, you can even see that with something like itch.io, which like allows almost anything to be posted on there. And it's hard to find a specific project or something like that. And for a while, after both of those markets kind of had their like rough time, a lot of indie game developers were talking about how good it was to ship something to Switch. And like, like when the Switch had just come out, getting through the process that Nintendo had put up to put a game on the store was like just rigorous enough where like a lot of indie game developers felt like they had a good heyday on there. And now that's oversaturated as well, right? So
It's saturated everywhere.
That era of finding like a good product and like seeing it immediately on a storefront and knowing that it's a quality product, even if it's made by an indie developer, is gone. In my opinion,
Interesting.
I was gonna say it was very easy for me to get into the Nintendo. Like I was able to get Adultman, like and I can post my game now, and none of my wildest dreams will ever be able to like had to even think about releasing a game to Nintendo, right? Like as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, if I could make a game for Nintendo 64 or the GameCube, that'd be crazy, right? That's like you're up there, right? But now you can now, so
it's funny how Nintendo, in terms of from a systems perspective, how they've kind of shaped the industry in a weird way. They were the first one to actually have an architecture that's closer to computers. The GameCube was during the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox era. The GameCube actually had the most developer-friendly environment because it was most reflective of a computer. It had an actual Radeon graphics card inside of it, and just like a disc as you were reading off of. Whereas like the PlayStation 2 had a very specific architecture, and same thing with the Xbox.
Yeah,
right.
I always assumed like the Xbox had like much closer than
they were. There was a lot of gates from a tech perspective to be able to get to the CPU and be able to do some of the stuff you wanted. Whereas like and taking code that you were written on a computer and you were testing on a computer and having it run performantly on an Xbox was a very interesting process, to say the least.
The interesting said way before was that you're saying like artists like should be paid because it feels like, or at least from what people told me, like they value programmers more than artists, and
which I think this is me as like a programmer speaking. I think that's asinine. I think that's nonsense. I think because what I do is I put numbers into a system that it gets outputted into something that looks like a game, right? But the people that dress that shit up and the people that make that look like an actual video game, like to me that's still magical. That scene process is like magic to me.
I think a manager or somebody at the industry said to an artist like, well, you enjoy what you're doing, right? So that's why you should get paid less, because
and that's a common sentiment.
Who the hell said that? What a dickhead, man!
Someone said that.
That's not just a producer. That's a lot of companies for a long time used to predicate low wages on that. They would say that you're working on this XYZ dream product. I don't want to name a product. I have a few in my mind, but I don't want to say them out loud because I think that a lot of the attitudes have shifted in some of those studios. But yeah, that was a huge problem. Even programmers, it doesn't matter what you were, a programmer, artist, or something. They would short staff you on purpose and be like, "You're working on a thing you love, like." Why is it going to be such an issue? Don't you want to make it the best product ever? Blah, 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 blah. And that was the thing that caught a lot of people back in, like, I would say 10 years ago. That was a huge issue. Maybe even 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a big sense. Yeah, that's BS.
I mean, there's some pros and cons, but don't let that stop you, man. It's still easy to get into, right? Any closing comments for those guys that still want to get into game development?
Yeah, I know I'm being a little pessimistic, and I think that I don't want to reflect that. I think that if we're talking about, if I were to give a solid piece of advice to any starting game developer, is you're not going to make the video game in your head first time around. That's not going to happen. If you're a gamer and you have this idea like, yeah, this would be a great video game. I know I can make it happen. I just need to learn. That's a good mentality to start with. But the thing you're missing, which a lot of early game developers miss, is the idea of scope. And the idea of scope
for sure,
in your
man.
project.
We suffer from that. We had a huge issue with that, man, for sure. Yeah. Having the right scope.
And that's the learning how to scope your projects properly is what's going to make you into a good game developer in the long run, I think.
I think a suggestion I would make is a simple suggestion I would make is just experiment.
Yeah.
See what you can do.
Yeah.
I don't know, in the server that we're all in, I don't know if you guys saw what I posted a tweet from a few days ago where indie game developers working on a Doom clone, and he had the tweet was you either die a bug or live long enough to become a speedrun strat.
Wait, say that one more time. You live long enough to become a what?
You either die a bug or you live long enough to become a speedrun strat.
Oh my god!
I don't know if you know that, like that culture. I don't know if you call it
the Doom speedrunning culture. Yeah, for sure. I've watched some of them. They're crazy, man.
Yeah, those people are crazy. They try to find exploits just to get a shorter amount of time, and that's an interesting a world there.
Halo 2 comes to mind too. All those freaking 200 maps that had freaking super jump areas. You can just crowd into stuff. And oh, that was fun.
There's a lot of speedruns I like to watch because they kind of undress what a game is under the hood. Metroid Prime has a funny one where you have to do a lot of stuff jumping outside of the level, where you don't even see the map anymore. You just have to know where the platforms are at the edges of the collision boxes for the level, and you have to jump on top of those to get to the end and speedrun for that. Portal's another good one where the Source 1 engine had a lot of problems where they didn't uncap how fast you could go. So a lot of Portal speedruns and Half-Life 1, 2 speedruns, you're actually running backwards because that was the one uncapped speed.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and so they would run so fast, they would tunnel through a level, which is like a physics bug, and then they would, for Portal, they would shoot a portal to the end of the level, and that's how they would beat the level as fast as possible.
That sounds like freaking epilepsy in motion, man, in front of my freaking eyes.
It is kind of wild to watch.
It's always, because I've seen those videos, and I always find it very fascinating how people exploit it just to get a short amount of time and beat it. Like there's I think someone beats like Elden Ring in 30 minutes or less. I don't know, something like that.
The latest is 7 minutes.
7? Oh, damn.
Yeah.
and I heard the game is freaking long, and then I beat it in 7 minutes. Like,
yeah.
But we need to keep in mind they're not fighting bosses or any of that shit. They're literally skipping everything.
Yeah,
that's the point, right? Though you beat the
I know, but no, like
I think
I'm probably one of the few people that still doesn't get the point of speedruns, and is just like, well, I mean, you play games for fun, and this just seems.
Well, it's a challenge, isn't it? It's a challenge.
But that is no. That is the fun for those people. And this is coming from. I've talked to a lot of speedrunners who are like, you have to love a game to speedrun it because you are literally practicing playing that game only exclusively for hours on end and practicing routes and stuff like that because you love the idea of being able to do those things. That's their fun for them.
Yeah.
All I'll say is this: if I got it written down on paper that I would be paid a ton of money to speedrun through games, I'd probably be rich right now.
Yeah, that's called QA testing.
Well, do that, Davro. There you go. There you get Korea there.
Well.
The one last thing about the speedrun thing is another fascinating thing about that world is the cheaters and how they get caught.
Mm-hmm.
They call it splicing, where they cut the footage down, and they use some sort of software that can see the spice, like where they cut the freaking footage. I think based on audio or something like that, and that's how they get see those that's been cut, that sort of thing. It's I don't know, it's fascinating.
Oh, you mean how they detect whether or not there's foul play and it's someone's cheating? It's a detection system for audio? Is that what you mean?
Like how they figure out someone make cuts from their footage is by something with the audio. I'm not.
Oh, I see. So clever editing, they're trying to hide it, and there's a system to prevent that, right?
Yeah. So on a spectrogram, if you look at the audio visualize, if you look at the visualization of an audio wave, you can kind of tell if you're doing a cut in a video because that's the hardest part to edit, right? Editing footage together is the easiest part because there's a visual component to it.
Yeah.
But when you can't really manipulate the sound wave in most editing softwares you can do it in something like Audacity, but you're putting in so much work at that point, you might as well just practice the goddamn speed run.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You all that time you're investing screwing around, you might as well just practice, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's launch into the news segment then, Ivan. You want to take the lead there?
Yeah, sure. So let's talk about some news about the video games. So we got here, let's go to the first link here.
Yeah.
So we have an announcement. So this is what the event says here. Join us Sunday, June 12th for Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, which is very interesting because Xbox has just been buying left and right companies lately. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Just pulling up the article for the guys to see.
When you think of Xbox and Bethesda Showcase, what are the games that come to mind?
I'm excited for Outer Worlds 2. I'm excited for anything that Obsidian's working on. Basically, they have 2 games I know on the development floor that I'm really excited for. And I don't know if they'll show off any of those, but I like their work, so I want to see what the hell's going on.
Yeah,
is
for sure.
Is Obsidian part of Xbox or
they got bought by Bethesda a long time ago. They were part of it.
I didn't know that.
That was a big deal actually.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what's because I've been hearing some stuff about Starfield. It'd be interesting to see what Bethesda's been doing with that lately, because we got that teaser trailer that pretty much just showed. It didn't really show what kind of game it was. It was just basically like what seemed to be an astronaut sitting in a spaceship. That could be interpreted as anything, right? But
see, here's the thing. I've been hearing about this Starfield game for so long now, and yet they finally reveal it, and you get that teaser, of the astronaut and all that, and I'm like, it just looks like an ordinary astronaut going into space. And I'm hearing all this stuff about Starfield. People's talking about Starfield, and I'm like, what is so special about this? We've not even really seen anything yet. And given Bethesda's recent history, with the colossal disaster that was Fallout 76, among other things, why is anybody optimistic for this game? I'm not trying to say it's a downer, but that's the truth.
Dale, what's your take on that? I mean, obviously you can't speak to what's going on behind the scenes, but like just your perspective.
Yeah, just your opinion.
Well, one thing to know is that the team that's working on Fallout 76 is not the team that's probably going to be working on Starfield, at least from what I can probably ascertain. So that's one thing to think about. The other thing to think about is that, like, I think it's more of I think that brings up the idea of marketing versus development, because realistically speaking, to make the size of game that they want to do with what I assume Starfield is looking at, like I try to think of it at the same scale of something like a GTA 6, for example.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's what I'm thinking too. It's like a new IP. It's a new universe, like a new Mass Effect game almost.
Yeah, and there's a lot riding on that, especially for Bethesda. Like Davril said, like there's a lot riding on that in the side that like they have lost a lot of will with gamers, and I think that's appropriate. And so I think that a brand new IP is a good starting place to regain some of those niceties, and I think that's what they're kind of betting on. And I think at some point, even the consumer is also thinking the same thing, where they're like, yeah, like my relationship with the studio has been soured. This is a new idea. If they can do it right, then I'm bought in again. If not, then why would I ever care ever after this, right?
You gotta give me perspective on this. What's the deal with the creative engine? It's like freaking 20 years old at this point, right? Why do they still keep using it?
I mean, because
I think they've updated it because they merged it with the Microsoft. They updated it, I think. Yeah.
All right.
The thing about proprietary engines is that, like, when sometimes the label of an engine will be the same name for years and years and years. Unreal 3, 4, and 5 are all pretty good examples of this, actually.
Yeah.
Where Unreal 4 had 27 versions, right? Like the latest version of Unreal 4 was Unreal 4.27. And so those incremental upgrades can make a big difference at a tech perspective. So even if all we hear is creative engine, right? We don't know if that's creative engine 4, 5, 6, 75 billion, right? Like we don't know how many versions they've gone through.
Yeah.
Especially because they're in-house, right? They don't have to announce that stuff. The only reason we know anything about Unreal and Unity at that level is because they're actually selling that thing as a product to us.
Right. I guess from my perspective, like the texture's changing so rapidly, I would assume that you'd have to, create something from the ground up again to kind of mirror that, and then just upgrading an old engine for years to come. I guess I don't really understand I'm not that experienced, in like the experience what you have with programming and stuff, but that's just coming off like from what I understand, if you get what I mean.
There's a thing that I think a lot of consumers don't think about, or players or gamers, whatever you want to call them, don't think about, is that there's usually a reason for using a proprietary engine or an in-house engine. Sometimes it's familiarity, right? I can assume with Bethesda that might be part of the case. They've already have a tool chain set that deals with this engine for a long time, so that's probably a reason. Another reason is that when they're making an engine specific to a type of game. So let's just pretend that the creation engine is specific to RPGs. I don't know if that's the truth. I just think that's like a good assumption to make, right?
Right.
If they made an engine specific to making RPGs, that means it's designed to do that one very specific thing. Whereas if you're using Unreal or Unity or something else, right? You have to go through this process of making a tool chain set that will that will make it easier to make an RPG in that. So like maybe they don't want to deal with that process, and so they don't feel comfortable with dealing with another engine because they don't want to deal with making those new tools, which could also take just the same amount of time as it would to upgrade their current engine, right? So it's from a production perspective, those issues are hard to address from an outside looking in perspective.
Right.
Because I when we talked about the Unreal Engine, I thought or at least in my head, well, I can think of other reasons, but is there a reason maybe for people to not create their own engine and just use Unreal or Unity?
If you're like, for example, if I were to open my indie studio tomorrow, right, I would probably lean toward. I would probably start with something like Unity first. The reason is because it's really easy to iterate. A lot of developers I know, a lot of developers I've talked to, a lot of developers I would like to work with, all say that iteration inside of Unity is much faster than it is Unreal. But if you want to make a game pretty, if you want to have photogrammetry, if you want to do all these things that like Unreal has made it easier, especially with Unreal 5 coming up and stuff like that now, then like you iterate through your game idea and you get your prototype done in Unity, and then you can go to Unreal, get your very specific ideas honed out and the gameplay made in Unreal, and then you ship it. You have your pretty game, you're good to go, right? I think for like there's a lot of studios that have had a history of making proprietary games engine, and they're a lot of fun to make too. I've been wanting to make a fighting game engine, a 2D fighting game engine at home, just because I want to throw that out there for the world to mess with, because I think there's a lot of fighting game players out there that have ideas about how fighting games should work. So I want them to throw those ideas actually at the wall and see how bad they are for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know, it's those decisions are very much attuned from project to project, and sometimes you'll avoid one or choose another, right?
That's interesting. You mentioned that, like combining engines aspects, like doing stuff in Unity and doing stuff in Unreal and then shipping it. I never actually.
I think Blizzard uses the UI of Unity or something like that to make Hearthstone. Like Hearthstone has like a different backing to it, but they use a lot of the Unity edge, something weird like that. I never worked on that project, so I don't know.
Right.
I've heard rumbles about that kind of stuff before.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
Cool.
So, what do you guys think about like freaking Microsoft just buying all these companies? You think it's a good thing for the industry, or what do you guys think?
I think it's a good thing for some of the people that work there. I think that it makes it easier for like QA testers to get paid better. I think it makes it easier for artists to get better pay. I think it's going to make it easier for developers to take longer for their games because they have the backing of something like Games Pass, which a lot of these games are going to come to. So I think overall it might be a good thing. I am very personally scared of the fact that I don't know what the percentage is, but it really feels like Microsoft owns like upwards of 70% of the industry at this point, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like they was saying as well, they got access to all these resources and they can update their tech and everything. But again, Microsoft is getting bigger and bigger, man. So
yeah. Like I don't know, as a gamer's perspective, Darryl, what do you think? Like you think because I don't know if you ever used Game Pass before. I don't know if you have Game Pass.
Of course, I've been using Game Pass for quite a long damn time now.
Yeah, and I see it the good thing because like I feel like we're heading towards like sort of like a Netflix way where you have all access. But yeah, go on.
I'd like to think I think it is a good thing because a company as big as Microsoft, when you're under their umbrella, you're more likely guaranteed to get more funding and support for your games, and you're likely to be even more taken care of than however you previously were. Like, for example, Activision. Well, I'm not even going to go into that BS, but everybody that was working there, now that they're going to be under the Microsoft umbrella, they're likely going to be taken better care of now, and they're going to be, and I think they'll even be given even more time to actually work on their games to make good games. And when you've got guys like Phil Spencer in charge, who actually takes that stuff seriously, and I think even he himself is a bit of an avid gamer. Like, I
believe so. Yeah,
like that's the kind of people that you want in charge. People that know their games and actually take care of their employees and have the resources to fund them and make sure that everybody under them is able to like develop good games.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this a while ago as well. Like, I hope they have a failsafe for Phil Spencer if he steps out. I don't know if they got anything.
It really does scare me. If
Like,
Philly
that
Spence
was
walks out of the
inevitable.
Xbox door at the Xbox office and gets hit by an Xbox bus, like who's his Xbox child to take over the Xbox company? You know what I mean?
An Xbox box. I think that's an assassin there now.
Oh man.
On the topic of acquisitions, though, I think we can safely assume that Ubisoft is going to be next on the acquisition chopping block.
Yeah, they're about to get sold. I think I heard in through the grapevine about that. I don't know if it's how much of that's true.
They're owned by Viacom, I think, or something like that. Because I remember, if I remember what media company they're owned by, I'm not a fan of that media company because they have made really rash decisions in the past.
Oh,
yeah, I agree.
But I think I can still see them getting bought out, and the way just from what I've been hearing, like they could probably be getting bought out dirt cheap compared to some like Activision and Bethesda.
All right. Well, I'm gonna segue to the next topic, but I'm curious what you guys think about the to bring perspective. Like, I think it's good for Xbox users, but what about Sony people? Like, I think they're the ones getting screwed over at the end of the day.
Well, let me actually answer that for you. That ain't
Please do.
Because I've got PS5 and a Series X.
Say that again. Say that again.
It ain't no issue for me whatsoever because I've got both consoles.
Oh gosh,
right.
Well, you have a little more experience with Sony, and since you have a PlayStation 5,
Before Xbox, I was always just PlayStation. But ever since like Xbox game existence, it's been both now.
Well, here's some announcements to segue to the next topic.
Yeah.
So Sony just announced their PlayStation Plus subscription today for a long rumored answer to Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, the contender, I guess, right?
Yeah, they're competing there, but if you scroll down to below, there's the prices there.
Oh, hey, let's check out the pricing scheme here.
But here's the catcher though for this though. They're, like for Microsoft, right? You have like for Halo Infinite, right? You get a day one, right? They're not, and Sony, they're not doing that.
You mean day one release for games, right?
Yeah,
like,
day one,
they go straight to game,
right?
like they go straight to Game Pass. Yeah.
Yeah, like anything from exclusive for Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
But Sony's not doing that.
What are they doing?
They're just like, I think they're putting like or they'll eventually add it in, but I imagine they're not gonna. That depends on the game, I guess. They're not gonna do it like day one type of release on Microsoft, which is bad for people who like hoping for like Sony, like their answer to their to Game Pass, right?
Yeah,
because that's the benefit of Game Pass. Like, why should I buy a new game if I can just just pay for Game Pass, and then once it comes out on Game Pass and I have it right away.
Don't have to go to Blockbuster anymore to rent games. You can pretty much, whatever's coming on Game Pass, you can try it out, and if you like it, then if you want to keep it, you have to buy it, obviously.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Like with Sony, like is that a good answer to Microsoft's Game Pass, or what do you guys think?
The last paragraph on the page you have pulled up is very interesting already. They say that they feel that the quality of games would suffer if we put them on day one with PlayStation Pass or whatever, which I feel like it feels like a non-argument to me, to be honest.
That's just straight up BS. They just don't want to do that because they're probably worried that people will try out the games, not like them, and then not buy them, and therefore no sales for that game, therefore no sales for Sony. It's pretty fucking obvious. But
yeah,
even despite the fact that games wouldn't be put there on day one, I still think it is a bit of a fair contender against Game Pass because consider all the classic titles that would actually be putting on there. Like, they've got a massive freaking library, and I mean a massive library. You look at the PS1 games that they put on there, or the PS2 games, and all the PSP games. Like, and I've been wanting to play PSP games on like consoles for ages, and now I'm going to get that chance.
I feel like they're very selective about that too. Like, if you guys remember the situation with Cyberpunk, how they took how quickly they took the game down from the store.
Yeah,
they sound pretty strict compared to Microsoft. I don't know. What do you guys think?
If we look at the overall trajectory that PlayStation has been on, that Sony has been on, they seem to value the almost curated game experience that they offer, especially with their own games. So think of your Uncharted, your Last of Us, your let's see what else. Your Spider-Mans, anything else that they seem to want to cultivate an idea of like a cinematic game experience that very specifically made by these studios that they have under their belt.
Yeah.
So I think that the quality assurance aspect of it is a factor for them. So I can see why they would want to crack down on something like Cyberpunk or something else faster.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
What do you guys think they should do to compete? Because I feel like a lot of the people are complaining like it's just like it's not enough, you know.
I mean, do they simply just have a smaller library of games than Xbox? Like it says here, what 400? It's like it's a combination of 400 PS4 and PS5 games.
Yeah,
Okay,
I guess they're releasing or at least streaming like PS2 games and PSP games there.
Well, here's the thing. So like it's the PS1, PS2, and PSP games. The PS3 games I think it's only going to be like streamable. But if the rumors I've been hearing are correct, they might actually eventually be putting PS3 in along with the PS1, 2, and PSP games. But at the moment, honestly, I think I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say it is a legitimate contender because again, that's PlayStation 1, 2, and PSP games. That's a big library, and those are games amongst all those consoles. Those are games that we grew up with, and nowadays it's hard to even play those games. Like when you look, if you want to go back and play those games, you either have to dig out your old consoles and then dig out your old games if you kept them to do that, and even then. All that old stuff isn't compatible with like the new TVs and that. Like a quick example, when I was on my Metal Gear Solid binge, and I think I already told you guys about this. I definitely didn't tell you there. When I was on my Metal Gear Solid binge, I went and got to Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes for the GameCube. The damn GameCube wasn't compatible with my 4K TV, so I had to jump onto Amazon and order an HDMI SCART lead that was compatible for the GameCube and the 4K TV.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a plus there for sure.
A few days for it to arrive before I could actually play my game, and even then, the picture was a bit like dark because again, like you're playing an old game on a big, massive, new modern TV. So it's like, but it's PlayStation 1, 2, and PSP games. Like, if you look on eBay, people are selling a whole bunch of old games for absurd prices. Like, I mean, look at that. Priced at $17.99 per month. And that's how, like, people are selling individual, like, classic games for double that on eBay.
Not even, I would say even more than that. If they're sealed and new, like, freaking, like, 5 times as much.
I mean, you also pay for the convenience too if you're live streaming it. I guess depends how their live streaming services work and how well it is, or the quality. You know, I don't see that it'd be a problem.
I can speak to that. I actually tried the live streaming service. I played Silent Hill, the HD collection, I think, and nice. I tried. I can't remember what the service was. It allows you to stream a game to your TV.
PlayStation Now.
PlayStation Now, that must be it. Yeah, it was actually pretty. The latency wasn't that good, to be honest. There was quite a bit of a delay, man. So I know. Microsoft's moving in the direction with cloud gaming and stuff. Apparently, their network is pretty big now. But I'm not sure.
I didn't have any because I tried theirs on like my phone, my smartphone. Yeah, and I didn't have any issues at all, really. And I noticed a little bit of artifacts here and there, but that was because I was in Costa Rica playing it, and the internet's pretty spotty there. But
could have been an off day, I guess.
Yeah, but I wouldn't judge that because it's
well, you messed up by playing Silent Hill HD collection. That was the first.
I know. Yeah, it's the game has a lot of issues.
The worst.
Listen.
Literally.
I took issue with that too, and I freaking sent my game back to Konami, and I said, "Give me a refund." They wouldn't give me a refund, and they said, "All right, give me another game." They gave me Metal Gear Solid HD collection, and I was happy. Okay,
so that's fair.
That's
not too bad.
That's fine.
That was the time I left Manandor fending for himself while I was cooking meat.
He's talking about Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker when he went on the freaking dinosaur island. You can do an emote where you're cooking food. I was getting chased by dinosaurs and getting killed, and he's just sitting there cooking his food. So that's what he's talking about.
Yeah,
dickhead. Oh my god.
Yeah. But yeah, back on topic. I think it's worth it. I still think Game Pass is better, but this is still good. And again, when you consider the fact that people are selling individual classic games for double what you can pay for just monthly on this, and again, like Manda said, even more. If I just need to pay $17.99 to be able to go back and play Soul Reaver or Metal Gear Solid or Legend of Dragoon or Siphon Filter or Tekken 2 or Tekken 3, just a whole bunch of those games for just $17.99 for a month to play any of those and more, yeah, that's worth it.
It's better late than never, man. I mean, we've wanted a response to Game Pass for a while now. At least they're delivering on something. So
yeah, but the only thing that irks me is the fact that it took them this long. I
yeah,
get it,
they don't.
but
I think Japanese companies don't seem to like emulation that much, do they? I think Nintendo had that issue too.
No, I can tell.
I think
Yeah,
Nintendo doesn't in the same kind of issue, is in the same boat with that as well.
yeah, I think honestly, this was something that they just decided they realized they had no choice but to do. They realized this was something they were forced to do just based solely on the fact that Game Pass existed.
Yeah,
that's what it seems that way. It seems like they're just trying to catch up now, because the reason why I'm saying that too is like there's like the PlayStation Now, right, subscription, and then now there's a PlayStation. They're taking that out now, the PlayStation Now.
Yeah, they're dispensing with that.
Yeah, which if you go to the next article or even the tweet there, because someone's tweeted like, I'm finding less and less reason to keep my PlayStation 5 and more. Xbox Game Pass is kicking ass right now.
Yeah.
And this PlayStation subscription service is crap and not very good.
Once they make PS3 games available as a part of the PlayStation Plus Premium, then I can say it's a full legitimate contender to Game Pass. But Game Pass will still be better because obviously they still have the one advantage that will still have is they get games day one.
This guy's talking about being a car enthusiast. I think what do they have got going, like a Gran Turismo, right? That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
because
that's what he's saying. Is
Microsoft is killing it
really
with Forza, man. I'm telling you, like,
yeah.
Oh man,
I ain't gonna even go into that conversation about Gran Turismo 7. Jesus Christ. The stuff I heard about that.
Well, I heard like their monetization is terrible, or like what was it again? I don't know if you guys know about it.
For what?
Okay. So I don't know. I don't know all the details. All I know is this: the monetization wasn't anywhere near as bad. Or I don't think there was monetization at first when they were having like reviewers playing the game for review purposes. But when the game launched and players and reviews came out, and then players bought it, then they turned on the monetization switch. That's I think.
Oh, okay. So that's what happened.
I see.
Yeah. So basically, they pulled a very scummy move by waiting until nothing but positive news came out about the game. Then when people bought it after reading said positive news, okay, let's milk the hell out of them.
Wasn't that done before? What was that one game? The other game that did that before? Like
you mean implementing monetization after the fact?
I don't know. You're gonna have to be specific, Ivan. What is this?
I was asking you guys. I don't know if you guys know.
I know.
I think you're gonna have to give us more details than just what.
Yeah, you probably
don't
know.
Remember at all.
I feel like Evolve tried something shitty like that a long time ago.
I think they did that, but that was that was like 2013
or some shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess we can go out to the next thing. So yeah, it says Sony has temporarily cutting off. Sony has temporarily cut off users' ability to renew their PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now subscription as apparent efforts to prevent users from converting those cheaper subscription into a more expensive PlayStation Plus premium subscription, and the service transition to a new unaffiliated.
Ivan, pause for 1 sec. Which article is this? I don't think you've sent this one to me.
It's the last one I think I sent out. The last link
I don't think I have that one. Can you send it, please?
I'll resend it. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, it's what do you guys think? It seems like Sony's trying to get rid of their PlayStation Now because people were hoping. I think I heard a crazy story about like someone had like the cards. They bought those PlayStation Now cards and they can't redeem it anymore.
So what? They just spend all that money. It's invalid because it's moving on.
I think so. Yeah.
Just get refunds, can't you?
Maybe.
I mean, unless he's redeemed them like a dumbass, then obviously there's nothing we can do about that, right?
What I've heard is people are stocking up on months and months worth of PlayStation Plus or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that by the time the new PlayStation Premium comes around, they can convert it to that, and that way they don't have to pay extra or some shit.
Right, Ivan, did you send the link?
Therefore, they'd be saving money,
Fine.
and obviously Sony doesn't like it when people manages to find loopholes around their monetization strategies.
Yeah, because I'm reading here. Can't purchase, can't add to cart. You already purchased the item. Users access internet are reporting similar issues using physical prepaid PlayStation Plus cards to renew their subscription. Accounts that aren't currently subscription to PlayStation Plus can still sign up for the year, though. Huh.
Yeah, just drop the link so we can pull it up on the screen now.
I sent you the link. It's on the privateer chat there.
Okay.
What was PlayStation Now like? What like you get more for a lot less? Apparently, I guess.
It was their streaming catalog basically, and then it had a few features where you could, if you had a console in your house, you could stream from that console to any other device, basically to like a computer or to your phone and stuff like that. And then it had a catalog of PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 3 games, I think.
Yeah, it was. I never ever. I'm serious. I never ever fucking used it. That's how useless it was.
We had a friend that used it all the time, and he liked it a lot.
Like a lot. But you also needed to play online, right? As well. I think that's
you need PlayStation Plus to play online. A little, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And PlayStation Now could also give you like free games as well, right?
Yes, it gives you 2 games a month, 2 to 3 games a month, just like the Epic Games Store, basically.
I wonder how much it would cost before, and then how much is the price increase?
The PlayStation Plus is going to be the current PlayStation Plus. I think is going to PlayStation Plus Essentials, which is $2 cheaper per month. I think is something like that. Yeah, and then after the bottom tier, and then you get more and more stuff as you go up from there.
I don't know. Well. Some people were complaining, like, they're kind of kicking them off to PlayStation Now, and they force them to use like the PlayStation Plus now. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, they gotta think of a way for people that have already redeemed these codes for like these subscriptions. What they're gonna do about that? I mean, that's a huge issue if they're just kind of gonna cut off their service and transition to this now. What is it, PlayStation Now, right? Is it moving to?
Yeah, or not PlayStation Plus, right?
Plus, that's it. Sorry.
Yeah, PlayStation Now is being shut down for PlayStation Plus Premium or whatever, because Essentials is the bottom version, and there's one above that, and then there's Premium, which is the highest, I think.
Yeah,
which is supposed to have access to all the classic games from PlayStation 1, PlayStation.
That actually reminds me. What did they do about Microsoft points? You guys remember that back in the day? Because they got rid of that too. What did they do? Because that was a transition to just literally buying stuff on the storefront. They got rid of Microsoft points completely. But people that redeemed the Microsoft points, like what was the solution to resolve that? What did they do?
That's a good question. I don't know.
From what I recall, back in the days when I was like really buying stuff like DLC and stuff, and I was heavily playing in Xbox, the points just sat there. Like I'd probably just be sitting on like 2,000 points, and maybe I go back to an old Xbox 360 game that I just bought, and I could still access the 360 storefront and buy stuff with the points that's sitting there. So they were still redeemable, and I could still use them.
Was the Microsoft points what we used to purchase those map packs back on Halo 3? Was it still in then?
Yeah. We used Microsoft points to purchase the map packs from Halo 3. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I remember.
From what I remember, they didn't do anything about it. I don't think they had any solution to it. Like people that redeemed their points, they just kind of sat there unless you're going to use them for like an OG 360 game or something. That's what I remember, at least. Maybe they did have a solution further down the pipeline. From what I recall, like the points that I had when they transitioned to like I don't know, later on 360 and then Xbox One, the points just sat there in my account. So
I think it says here, if you live in the United States, Xbox Live rewards will soon become Microsoft Reward. Actually, no, probably not. Okay, never mind. I thought they're going to convert to like reward services or something like that.
I think you guys are missing the biggest part about it.
What's that?
Which is that even you're not thinking, you're too busy thinking at your consumer level. You're not thinking like a corporation. Which is that people are gonna make a ruckus about it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then no one's gonna give a fuck. That's
all right. So we're blue pilled. So according to we're blue pilled. You want to tell us what's up then? Take us down the rabbit hole, Alice.
I'm just saying that like that's the truth of it. I'm not trying to be disparaging of you guys.
I'm just cool, bro. I'm just joking.
But I'm serious. Like I think I I'm also a person that buys these things. I understand that like I'm getting screwed over in some way, but like I don't have power. We don't have power in this regard, right? Like, what are we gonna do? Sue the guys? Like, you know what I mean?
It's America. Just sue everyone. Right?
Yeah, at least make an attempt out of it and then get shafted by a team of lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Like that woman's suing McDonald's for making her overweight or something.
Oh gosh, that's
selectively buying into a brand and then blaming the brand for the outcome.
Yeah. I thought I was supposed to lose weight if I eat your crap.
No, Dad. What if you wanted to speak more on that? Yeah, share some experience. What do you mean by that exactly?
I just because it's anytime something like it's very dependent on what the uproar is, right? Like you can be you can be vocal, but if you're a vocal minority, no one cares. Like that's it. I'm sorry. Like there's not enough dollars being funneled into making your argument loud enough for people to give a fuck. That's the end of it. And I'm not saying I don't want those people to get screwed over, right? I'm just being honest from how they view us. Like that's how they look at us. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, we're just bags of money for them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, just an FYI, your camera's shaking. It's adding like dramatic flair to your.
Sorry, yeah, my leg was against the.
You're like the cinematic camera, like kind of zooming around you and going crazy as you're like.
They don't care about you.
They don't care about you, like smashing the table, like the shaking.
Back money.
like he's powering up, getting ready to go Super Saiyan.
Let me drop the red pill on you guys. Yeah. No, yeah, for sure, man. I mean, obviously, we get more experience under our belt. We'll probably, that the perspective will evolve because we're coming from a consumer-based perspective into game development from that because we've been gamers for so long. So obviously, you get more experience and more awareness of that. Maybe your mentality perspective will evolve as well.
And even from me, even for all of us, right? If we make a game, we're trying to fulfill our promise to consumers of the experience we want to deliver them, right?
Yeah.
Trying to think about the delivery vehicle of what that experience is so that's even as a developer that's beyond you sometimes, right? Like you don't have control over those reins. So you're subject to Steam, you're subject to PlayStation Store, you're subject to Epic Game Store, right? Like you can only do so much to get around those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's about it for my thing. Other than I don't know if you guys think PlayStation 5 is doomed. I don't know.
PlayStation 5 is doomed, you said?
No,
I don't think so. I think it'll be fine.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But,
we'll see. I haven't picked up a PS5 yet, but Brian's gonna be delivering one to me probably prior to Christmas this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, potentially an early Christmas gift. Did we tell you about that, dear?
I heard that there was rumblings of an exchange of value going on.
Exchange of value. An exchange of value, yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Whatever you sick freaks do for each other. I'm kidding.
Perhaps. Bro, I think you're just mad, aren't you? Just admit it, because you wanted to get on down on that.
No, I mean I'm so over having a PlayStation at this point. I barely turn on my PlayStation 4. All the games that I actually like are coming to PC at like kind of a good clip anyway. So it's like whatever, man. And like I don't know. I barely have time to play fucking games, I've been trying to finish Red Dead 2 for almost half a year at this point. I just don't have time to sit down and finish it. Like, that's it.
I probably started playing Red Dead.
Don't worry, Dale. We'll get you one. Don't worry.
By the way, someone in chat says, I guess commenting too is like the pricing, what Davros says.
Yeah.
The old games, like Pokemon, for example, never gets lower than $40.
Ever.
Yeah.
And old Digimon never gets lower than $60. Damn, that rare.
Freaking hell, man.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we'll move on to Brian's articles then. Brian, the torch goes to you.
All right. So speaking of PlayStation 5s, do you guys remember the PlayStation? Well, hold on a second. Let me bring it up because I freaking.
Which one are you starting with? Because I got the Halo Infinite one pulled up.
Oh, well then, I guess we'll go with the Halo Infinite one then. Because it would have been a good transition talking about PS5s to the PS5 exclusive that was the other article, but since you've brought up
all right, hang on. Hold on there, Seller.
We'll do that,
yeah. Okay, which was the PS5 one?
The segue to it.
It would have been such a perfect segue.
Oh my! Well, Brian, you didn't send it to me. Which one? What was the article? Which one?
It's the Final Fantasy 16
All
one.
right, I got that one. Here we are. Final Fantasy
Okay,
15,
so
16.
all right, here we go. So speaking of PS5, PlayStation 5, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 exclusive that everybody keeps forgetting exists because they don't update us on the damn thing. Final Fantasy 16. So according to Naoki Yoshida, he says that the game is near the end of its development, which is good news because I've been looking forward to this game for a while. And obviously, since now they say that it's near the end of its development, that to me suggests that we may actually see the game this year. Because I don't think we saw it last year, did we?
I don't think so.
I think they announced it. Then they didn't show like a teaser trailer.
I think they showed something pretty short. Yeah.
I think I think it might have been the year before because I really do not recall seeing anything at all.
I mean, they do really talk about it though. But
guys, they don't care about the game. They only care about this clothing line. See, just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Wait, but you're telling me it's exclusive to PlayStation?
Yeah, it's apparently
is it timed exclusive?
Is it time or because I'm gonna be pissed off? I don't have PlayStation 5.
I cannot remember. It might be a timed exclusive. I'd have to go back and check.
Is it coming to PC at least?
At least come to PC,
please.
I want to play it. I want to play that game, Ad. Come on.
I still gotta beat 15, man. That game's so freaking long.
Yeah, dude, you've not beaten 15 yet. What
I haven't.
Fuck is wrong with you,
Brian? I'm working all the time. What do you want me to do, man? I'm freaking hell.
Well, anyway, it's obviously going to be a single player. I don't need to state that.
Yeah.
Which I prefer it that way. I can't even try to get into Final Fantasy 14 because it's just MMOs and all that. There's too much stuff to keep track of, and it would require you so much time to commit to it, and that's just I don't have that kind of time when I'm trying to do other stuff. But yeah, one of the things that they said that the games during the game's development, Yoshida said in an update back in December, the Final Fantasy 16's development had fallen almost half a year behind schedule. With other staff forced to work from home due to the pandemic and all that shit, which is understandable. Obviously the pandemic affected everything, and I emphasize everything because it literally affected everything: games, movies, sports events, and all that shit. You name it.
Life in general.
Life in general. So, I'm not even surprised that this game's development has fallen so far behind. But to actually hear that it's that they're putting the finishing touches on it, it's actually encouraging because, again, just from the initial teaser alone, it actually looks good. It's set in it's like a Game of Thrones ish setting, That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from it, and I like that.
Medieval.
I like the look of it, and obviously, again, Final Fantasy 15 was the one that was the game that reignited my passion for the franchise, and it got me going back and playing older games that I either skipped or had not yet completed, and I'm still in the process of trying to complete one of what's it called? I had to get back to Final Fantasy 9 because I never completed that and I've already told this story to everybody that knows that I played that game. I got lost. Like a lost little child in a freaking supermarket. Like a lost little child in a Walmart. I got lost because long story short, I reloaded. I stopped playing the game for a long time. When I reloaded it, I had no clue where I was at that point in the game. So it's like, well, damn. I went every location in the game to try and trigger story progression. No cutscene, no nothing. I was lost. I couldn't look up a walkthrough because I did not know where I was at that point in the game.
I'm watching a trailer. I see a kid freaking have blood spewed on his face right there.
I don't remember this as Final Fantasy. It's all wholesome,
It's a little more grittier and more
darker.
And I like that. I'm glad that they're actually. I'm glad they're actually growing a pair and having it be more grim and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting to see. Honestly, I don't remember that much about Final Fantasy. Yeah,
they usually don't really go that dark. I think probably Final Fantasy 7 was pretty dark, but I can't think of any other games that were pretty dark.
Yeah, you play the Final Fantasy games, right?
Here and there. I have a weird relationship with Final Fantasy.
How so?
I just I don't like I think 7 Remake was very cool. I like the ideas behind it, and I think that they did a good job of shifting up their systems. I think that it's I just don't like I don't see Final Fantasy as a series, and I never really have, especially because like you guys know the story of what Final Fantasy is, like why it became to be,
Yeah.
like, why it's even called Final Fantasy.
Yeah. But go ahead and share it if you want to anyway.
Well, it was just that this was their like when they were making Final Fantasy 1, it was their last attempt at making a game, or else their studio would have been shut down. So there was literally their Final Fantasy,
right?
And so, and I think they just used it as like a moniker for 15, 16 different games now, right? Like none of those, like barely any of those storylines are holding up. If they make a direct sequel to something, they literally call it a direct sequel, like Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy X2.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I like the combat system, and that gets me excited. Like the way that they're showing it off looks cool, and it's very reminiscent of 15 and 7 remakes. So I think it'll be a fun game. But in terms of like waiting for their release date, I don't know. I don't buy into hype very often. Like I'll like.
Unfortunately, I've been stung, and I'm kind of in the same boat with you on that one for sure.
Same here. Yeah. By the way, just a little like information. So Final Fantasy 16 is on its way, and it's hopefully coming to PC. So it's
hopefully. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, but basically saying like Square Enix has been coy about it's coming to the platform. So I think they're just not saying anything, but it seems like it is going to be like exclusive for PlayStation, and maybe later on it'll probably be released to PC, whatever that.
What's the impetus for that though? Right now, at least, they need more exclusives. Or like, what's going on?
Maybe
Sony probably gave them money.
Probably.
Yeah.
And knowing how Square Enix works as a studio, I'm not surprised that they probably need that money. Like that's where they probably need that influx of cash. Because if I remember correctly, Final Fantasy 15 was in development for almost a decade, almost.
Yeah,
freaking hell, man.
Yeah.
But on the topic of buying into the hype, I get that. The reason I'm optimistic about it is because, well, it's Final Fantasy. It's a big franchise, and more often than not, every mainline entry has always been solid in some way. And I get it. Yeah, I'm sure somebody's going to say, Final Fantasy 15, oh, but look at that. Yeah, use that as an example. I get that. But that was obviously divisive with the fan base. Obviously, the game wasn't for everybody. But me personally, I did like it. I had a fun damn time with it. And honestly, I like just everything. What I've seen from just the like one trailer they've shown us alone, I think maybe there's another teaser or something, I don't know. But just from what I've seen alone, it does look promising. It does look promising. It looks gritty. I'm glad that it seems to it's taking a bit of a serious dark approach, because I don't think you really get that anymore nowadays. Like they just some studios just aren't like. They don't want to like take a bit of a risky jump and do something like super gritty, you know, like you don't get that nowadays. So I'm really glad to see that they're going like super dark with this one from what I'm seeing. But yeah,
I would prefer like the grittiness and the maturity on games. Like I think I appreciate it more. Like that's why I wish like the new Batman was more like it'd take it further, like. Because they usually blur out like those that scenes, right? Or they kind of censor it in a way.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, we're mature enough to see this. Please show us. I want to see more guts and gore.
Yeah, I know, right?
You guys have had a constant issue of realizing you're not the main audience for a lot of things anymore. And I'm sorry, that's the truth though. You have to deal with that. You have to contend with that. I'm sorry.
So what are we contending with? What are we contending with?
You're not the main audience for things anymore. You're aged out. We're not the demographic.
No, I refuse to believe it.
The thing is, there's nothing wrong with that. You have to realize that you have to pass something on to someone else that comes after you, right? Like, I think Batman's a great example of that.
Screw them.
The other side of it is like there's a lot of that media out there that you haven't probably even seen that throughout a lot of different years that comes with that sense of grittiness, and you have to find that for yourself, right? Like I don't know, I understand it's hard to do, but I'm okay not being the main audience for some of these things. I understand that it's not meant for me.
I completely agree. You're right. We are not the main audience. We may not be the main audience for this, but we will certainly have the louder voices when it comes to the feedback. That's for sure.
Yeah, we just don't. I mean, don't be surprised if no one gives a fuck.
Wait.
Imagine the movie Incredible or Toy Story and like a rated R movie.
Oh my
Right?
god.
Yeah, like that's not gonna happen.
Oh, look, good. That's Toy Story. Come on.
Then
Yeah,
just
but you gotta understand.
start
another
Toy Story
kid-
bootleg
another
universe.
kid's gonna tell you that's my Final Fantasy, Dad.
Way
Boomer.
start a bootleg
Boomer.
universe like that Adi Shankar does
Okay.
with
All
his
right,
movies.
all right.
Honestly,
Moving on.
talking about game development and talking about making ideas. Yeah, baby, go make that gritty shit. I want to see a baby.
Yeah.
Way.
Okay, next article.
Yeah, triggered. Brian, are you triggered? Did you just get triggered, Brian? What's going on, bud?
Hey, I don't get triggered by games. The only thing that I get triggered by is burnt food.
Way.
Fair.
Yeah. Well, Brian, you cooked it wrong, so I mean, how's
pisses me off more than putting a gorgeous looking big cheese pizza into the oven, only to return like 30 minutes later and discover nothing but bloody charcoal.
Brian, you burned it though, so that's on the onus is on you there, my friend.
Yeah, no, but you see, the thing is, you could be talking to me in the living room, right next to the kitchen, and distracting me from checking on the pizza, so it could be your fault.
Oh,
how many people thought they were gonna wake up today and talk about burnt cheese pizza? I'm just asking.
Quite a bit, because Brian talks about cheese all the time. He uses like a freaking a mouse in his previous life or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like it's not true that you don't get triggered by games. Like you get triggered all the time with like certain games that doesn't work or doesn't work at all. Or
yeah.
You useless prick! Like you always hear you screaming that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. I got triggered by Ninja Gaiden Black, and Amanda was there to laugh at me.
yeah, Ninja Gaiden Black is OG, man. So good. Bro, I don't know if you checked out the previous segment, but we roasted the shit out of freaking Ninja Gaiden 3. Like, we're just talking about in general how like the West needs to, dispense with focusing so much on making Western games for Western audiences. Then you're just gonna do their own thing. I know the market's there, but it's killing games like Ninja Gaiden 3, man. Because all motion cap in English and all that.
There's always a hunger for a new idea. It's the hard part is capturing that idea and putting it to the end. Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to Brian's last article then.
All right, so Halo Infinite is getting rid of its controversial armor core system.
Thank God.
So, I obviously I don't need to. You guys were around for the older Halo days. You know how the armor customization worked in Halo 3, Halo Reach, and all that. It was good. It was simple. You unlocked pieces of armor for your Spartan or your Elite by getting achievements. In Halo Reach, you used the credit system to just purchase whatever was available at that point where you were ranked.
Yeah,
and it was simple. It was straightforward, and it wasn't rage-inducing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward, and you get Halo 4. It was okay, but like even with that and Halo 5, the body armor designs were just so like mech, like you didn't. It's like you look like a freaking robot instead of a like super soldier.
Yeah.
And then you get to Halo Infinite, and it looks good, but there's no freedom of customization anymore. Like each armor core, it has its own specific customizable pieces, but you can't use pieces from other armor cores, and therefore it takes a bit of the freedom away. But now they're finally, as you see by the article, they're getting rid of that. Finally, it looks like we'll be able to mix and match all of our armor pieces to whatever we want. And I think if I remember right, coatings will also apply. Coatings that were originally only exclusive to one armor core will now be exclusive to all of them. I think that's what I read. But yeah, Manda, your take, because this was something that pissed you off, especially.
Yeah, much needed change. One of my biggest issues for sure was like the customization was great, but it's stuck to only certain armor sets. You can't mix and match stuff. Like obviously the armor sets, there's two main armor sets in Halo Infinite. There's the OG stuff from Reach, and then the new stuff they're implementing in Halo Infinite. So I would like to create a modern Spartan with, like, say, a Mark 7 helmet with maybe shoulder pads from the Reach days and like Halo 3 like knee pads or something, right? Mix and match. Yeah. Create whatever you want. But unfortunately, I can only assume for the monetizing aspect, the customization was only stuck to certain pieces of armor though. So for example, you can only customize certain armor sets on a certain armor kit, so like all the Reach stuff can only stay on the Reach stuff area, all the modern stuff can only stay on the modern stuff. You couldn't mix them, and that was just so boring, and it just
restricting. It was
restricting. Yeah, and
yeah.
people want to mix and match because the old days they used to do that. Like Halo Reach, you could do that. Halo 3. Obviously, in the Halo 3 days, most of the stuff that you can unlock was just from like beating the game on Legendary, getting the skulls, beating the Vidmaster challenges and all that stuff. And I mean, I kind of miss that aspect as well, man. Like, where the game rewards you really for doing like the challenging stuff like that. You don't have to grind.
Yeah, right.
Now it's all about grinding, I feel like. But
definitely. Like the great, like. Now, granted, you're playing. Now, some idiot would make the argument that, well, you're still playing the game to unlock this. But yeah, the problem is it's really frustrating. It's taking more time than it should, and it just is not how it should be done. Now, when you look at how you unlock stuff by unlocking achievements, doing the Vidmaster achievements, and specifically, Mandar, let's go into detail real quick about the Vidmaster challenge achievements. The recon armor, for example, that was exclusive to a select few players. Lucky bastards, by the way. And like for the longest time, nobody else could get it unless you did something that really impressed Bungie. And that was one of the things that irked me about Bungie. It was like, no, we're the only ones that gets to wear this. Like some elitist. You did
something to impress Bungie, or you played with a Bungie employee and you could request them to unlock it for you. I think that was
or beat them. I think I don't know.
I think you didn't have to beat them as long as you played this. Just happened to get in the same lobby with them, then you could request it and they would do it for you. But yeah, I mean, and then after the challenges came out, then it was available to everyone.
Years later. Like after Halo 3 ODST, and they introduced that came with a multiplayer disc for Halo 3 that introduced the Vidmaster achievements. I think that's how it went. There was Vidmaster challenge achievements on ODST, and there was Vidmaster challenge achievements on Halo 3. And in order to unlock the recon armor, you had to unlock all those Vidmaster challenge achievements, and those were not easy to unlock. I can speak from first-hand experience. Mandar, you can as well. In fact, we both, me, you, and two others, had to unlocked all the achievements working together to do that, and we even did it like multiple times, helping other people. Like, do you remember what some of those achievements were?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like beat the final level in Halo 3. Make sure everyone survives in Ghosts. I think beat the firefight and get to like this. I don't know how far around. And firefight's incredibly challenging. That's one of them as well. Getting all the skulls, I think, was another one. Like, yeah, it was challenging, man. It made you, but like everyone was so invested in Halo during that time. It really, the community was massive. Like, that's what I feel like Halo is missing these days. Halo 3 was at its peak. Like, custom games was on point. They had a full theater system where you could make film clips. The file share system was very simple and very streamlined. Yeah, it's literally like just slots. You can put whatever you want. You can put game types on there. You can put screenshots on there, film clips. Everyone had their own kind of piece of themselves, their identity. Whenever you meet a player in a, I don't know. I mean, they don't do this now, but I felt like every time I played a match with someone, I would literally just go back through the former player list and go and look through people's profiles and check their file shares. Like, do they have any funny screenshots? Do they have any interesting clips? It's always titled interestingly and stuff like that. The community was just so engaging and massive, and when they moved to Halo 4 now, that kind of just went away because after they obviously the aesthetic was a lot different. I just didn't like it visually. I felt like it was too much going on, and they introduced rec packs. You can't earn what you want anymore. It's just kind of randomized now. All that stuff is just turned off. It just turned me off. I mean, the one thing I can say though was the Halo 4 story. 343 did, again, I've said this before, they've added a lot to the universe. Like, I can say that for sure though. Like, Halo 4, the lore, they took it to the next level. Like, they took it to the Mass Effect realm. Because Halo, back in the day, literally was just three things: the Covenant, the Flood, and the Halo Rings. That's it. There's nothing else. Yeah. No one knew anything about the Forerunners. No one knew anything. But then with Halo 4, you got the Didact, you got the Forerunners, who were a previous alien race. Humans were actually intelligent at one point. They had a war with the former Forerunners, and then the Flood was the sentient race that become corrupted. And there's a lot of lore they added to the universe. But the rest of the game suffered, man. Even though the story was bad, it suffered. But the Halo 5 story obviously sucked though. So
yeah.
But yeah.
And in terms of the story, they managed to salvage it thanks to the concept of the Banished from Halo Wars 2. And again, obviously, you didn't play Halo Wars 2, so you didn't feel as much attached with the whole concept of the Banished Infinite as I did. But if you'll probably now feel like going back and playing that at some point. But yeah, just on unlocking stuff in these games, it just all you had to do was just play the game, and it was fun. Like even some of the trickier achievements back in Halo 3, like you were constantly trying to do those whenever you had the chance. Like you're always keeping an eye out on the maps that you're getting, and then you're like, if you get the map you're looking for, you're like, okay, this is where I can do that one achievement. I'm gonna try and get it. Like it always kept you engaged in the game, and it was it was fun back then. Now, of course, back then everybody wasn't a freaking toxic, sweaty tryhard, but
nah, there's plenty of those back then, man.
There's plenty of those back then, but it wasn't anywhere near as bad as it is now. But you get the idea. One thing, I'm glad that they're finally going to allow players freedom to actually mix and match their other armor pieces now in this, because now people can experiment and try out new combinations and all that. And again, this may benefit machinima people who likes to diversify their characters up a bit and make each character unique and stick out and not look the same.
I mean, people have got strong opinions about machinima, though. I mean, they've said it's a scummy company, so I mean, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that.
I'm talking about
the concept.
The concept for sure. Yeah, I mean, that community again was very alive back in the Halo 3 days. Is it still alive now? I'm not sure. Like,
Machinima's dead. The company, I mean.
Yeah.
No, not the company. The concept.
The company is dead. The concept is still alive. It's just not anywhere near as popular as it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I think they really should do with Halo Infinite as well is like implement, just do basically what they did with Halo 3 ODS when that came out. Implement some Vidmaster Challenge achievements and give play like that are really hard to unlock. Like again, say for example, complete the campaign on Lasso with a full team of 4 players. And make if they do that, they give them a good reward, something really good for completing that, for unlocking that achievement. Again, if they implement stuff like that, that'll bring players in want to try and give it a shot, and it will keep them on the game for a while at least. At least they'll have a reason to play the game because there's something that they want and they're trying to unlock it.
When did they say the next season's coming?
Tuesday.
Okay, so if they can implement this as soon as possible, if they're setting up a freaking like road track to add content into the game, this is a good way to start for sure. Like, you add this new battle pass system, there's tons of armor and stuff to unlock, and now you can customize all of it. So a lot of people that's gonna be an incentive for them to start playing this game again, because
I'm able to pick and choose the colors I want now, or
they said that did they say the same thing with colors as well? Because coatings and all that is mixed.
So yeah. Apparently, you will be able to apply coatings from other arm cores to other ones. That's what I did here.
Okay.
Guess we'll see how that looks.
But at the moment, this is all just being said. I'm gonna wait until they do.
Yeah. See how
let's wait for it to be implemented first. I mean, I got nothing to do. I beat everything. I beat the battle pass. I beat the game, and it's just finished. No,
don't worry, because come May the 3rd next week, you will have another battle pass to snail through. But don't worry, because I'll be there to share your pain, because we're both going to be doing it, and we're both going to hate it, like we did the first one.
Well, if we're gonna be grinding at the speed that we were grinding at, anyone would hate it, man, for sure. I mean, I hope I hope they add new game types and stuff and fix that up, though, because some of them did get ridiculous.
There's 3 new game modes, 2 game maps, and a bunch of customization items.
We already know that there is going to be new game modes coming with Season 2. I'm just hoping that, for the love of God, they don't make it as much of a chore, because to get XP, to get up the battle pass, you need to complete specific challenges, and most of the time you get put into games where you cannot do those challenges. Like, again, get a kills for a specific weapon. You get into a map, that weapon's not there, so you have to wait until the next game, but then it might not even be there either. Amanda, you had this issue, remember?
Yeah, the Fiesta game types where the weapons are randomized. I got, I think, 4 games in a row where I didn't get a single one of the weapons for the challenge. It took me, I think, 40 minutes to get into a single game where I could get the weapon for the challenge that I wanted, and even then I only completed 1/3 of it, Because again, if you know anything about Halo, once you get the power weapons, like you got laser sights on you from every direction, man, and they're gonna steal it from you the second that you get it. So it's challenging, but I mean, that was really tedious. Dale, what's your perspective on that as well, like the grinding aspect of that, stuff like
The
that?
challenge aspect of it, I understand. I think that one of the things that would make it a lot better was that if they separated out the stuff from quick play. I don't know why they do that. Like just having a mode for fucking capture the flag, and what's the other one called? The one with the zones.
Territories?
No, the other one. Capture zones or whatever.
Objectives,
territories.
And oddball. If they took those out of, if they can keep them in a quick play playlist if they want to, but separating them out so I can get to that challenge faster I think that would be a huge benefit.
Yeah, that I hated that. Yeah, you had to like randomly just keep playing quick play until you get the right game type as well. That was so frustrating. I remember that. Like
they're just RPG.
Yeah, they have to separate them from quick play. Like I spent I spent I think 2 hours trying to get a capture the flag game to finish the last part of the challenge, and I got so mad I just turned the game off.
And it's even more frustrating.
The game.
Yeah.
Well, it's even more frustrating when you have to do something simple too, and you just don't get to do it. Like if you're here to capture the flag, and they're like, "Oh, just capture the flag once," you're like, "Yeah, I can do that." But then you get in a really sweaty capture the flag game, and you're like, "To get to the flag is a challenge, and then to win is a challenge," and then
it gets it too.
So true, man. Yeah.
I think it seems like they're just trying to extend the game's lifespan because they know they didn't have that much content. Really,
it's
I mean,
that's what I think it is.
Was it a 6-month Game Pass or something like that? Like, how long was that last Battle Pass? It was pretty long.
It was pretty long. I don't know though.
It's the longest Battle Pass I've ever seen. I think I'm pretty sure. Like I remember looking at it, being like, "That's a lot of days."
Yeah.
Well, on the topic of Battle Passes, I mean, the next season, like this is season 2 that's coming up, but apparently the season 3 is allegedly supposed to be coming in November this year. So, yeah, take that for what you will.
I mean,
another same thing. Another 6 months. They're doing 6-month seasons. It sounds like that's fine, I guess.
Yeah, but the issue is like, and again, like this harkens back to another article we were talking about in the previous stream. Is the at the top of the article it said subject to change. So it's like if they're not even sure about whether they can meet those dates that they've set, like how should we like be able to expect to those changes to come in?
Yeah, we were speaking about this the previous stream. Like, it's really sketchy for developers to do that. No, I'm not like taking shots at developers, but I'm saying like it usually they can't live up to the commitments. There, what's your perspective on that? Because obviously Cyberpunk had their roadmap and they had a lot of issues with development. Meeting those commitments. So
like if they're completely unsure about whether they can meet those dates, then they should just not bother putting dates there at all and just wait until they're 100% certain that they can meet those dates.
You got to find the balance. Like, how do you engage with the community and tell them when updates are coming, and when do you just keep your head down and just work? Where's the balance?
How do you commit to a release date when you got hacked by somebody that put you out for work for everybody for 2 weeks? How do you deal with that? What do you tell people? And then if you tell people they're not happy, what do you do with that? How do you make everyone happy, right? How do you deal with the pandemic when you were planning to release a game in 2020, and a pandemic strikes halfway through development, and you have to lay off staff and figure out other things? How do you deal with that? What happens when you miss those commitments? Who's happy? Who's not? You know what I mean? Like, It's a catch-22 for everyone involved. If you're a consumer, it sucks. If you're a developer, it sucks. Even for business people, it's kind of awful too, because a lot of business people do need to make those sales and shit so they can keep people on staff and stuff like that, right? Like I don't know. I don't like the Cyberpunk story is wild. It's just so wild. There's so much shit that went down with that. Like, not only was it weird business practices, but the whole like to have the idea that someone got into their code base is so like that makes me like kind of like cringe up a little bit, because that like it feels dirty. Like, oh god, like to know that someone was snooping around their code. That's just like, oh, it's so
supposedly it was stolen and sold as well, and so they sold it.
And the thing is, when you're working at that scale, like if that happened to me, let's say that happened, like and Facebook gets targeted by random stuff like that all the time, right? So Meta is subject to something like that. If that happened to us, it's not a 2-week process. That could be a month. That could be 2 months of not developing, because we have to scan through everyone's computer, figure out what gateway got hacked, whose computer it was, why it happened. Like those things get wild, and it's not just when we're talking about these things, we're talking about them as in an extreme. Like that is a very extreme case of something like that happened. There are minor things that take up weeks of time. I have bugs that have taken me months to fix that sound like the simplest things in the world, but when you're working in a very complex system, it's hard to say. I don't know. The dates thing is a weird thing to talk about because it's like you need a date to give to people, and you have to say it's subject to change so you don't get sued when you don't meet it if something does happen. Like those lines, the subject to change, this gameplay was captured on blank system, or this is in pre-alpha. That is to cover their ass. That is so they don't get sued and stuff like that. But when they at every moment of development, when we're asked to make marketing material, we want to make the best so we can show you and hope that it will entice people to buy the game. But I don't know. There's so many factors there that are hard to speak to without being on the production floor itself, but with like just in general. Like I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I would say it's really complicated because I understand both sides' perspective on those things. Because you assume like when you say that you're gonna do it and like you're gonna do it, but it's just like the consumer don't see the behind the scenes sort of thing of what's happening. Like,
I get
it's a complicated issue.
Yeah,
I still think that one of 343's biggest mistakes to this day was saying that the game was content ready before releasing it.
Probably, yeah.
They made an official statement. They said that. Is that what they said?
Yeah, they said in the interview that the game was content ready. I still think that was one of their biggest mistakes. And again, I still stand by my opinion that regardless of how unpopular of a decision it would have been, I still think they should have delayed the game by another year. Regardless of the whatever negative perception that gets, because again, at the end of the day, like if you're going to release a game, you might as well just make sure that it comes out as best as possible. And again, pandemic, blah blah blah. I know all that stuff happened and stuff. It's just again with the way Halo Infinite launched, it was lacking so much content. It's just another year. The game would have benefited from another year. When you look at all this stuff that they're releasing now, imagine if they actually had delayed it and released it in this December.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's more like maybe it's something with the development process. I don't know, because I know games are more complex to make, especially now than before. I think we're just trying to figure out how to make games faster. I don't know, because people would demand more.
There's some things you just can't make faster. Like it's impossible in some aspects. Like I think what would be interesting, and I will never be able to see this unless I happen to get a job at 343, and I don't think people that I know that maybe work there right now don't even get to see this, is like, I want to know how many failed versions of Halo Infinite there are, because like that's something that would say a lot to why the final version looks the way it does and feels the way it does, because there's probably the amount of mechanics on the cutting room floor, the amount of concept, the amount of art that's probably just sitting there that just can't be used for whatever reason, or just doesn't fit their current version of the game or something like that. Like, I don't know. It's the story of development is never. There's no single good telling of the story of development. Everyone's gonna have a different perspective on why something didn't work and a different reason for why they feel that way, right? I would also have liked if they had delayed the game, because I put in about 100. I'm almost up to 200 hours in Halo Infinite. I've been playing that game a lot.
On PC, right?
Yeah. And like I feel like the core gameplay is very strong, and so to me, it makes me wonder how long it took to get them to make the game feel the way it does right now, and what got cut along the way to service what the feeling, because I think that's the core of what they really wanted to do and get correct. I think it's the core of what a lot of games wanted to get right, is like, if it doesn't feel good to play your game, then no one's gonna give a fuck.
Yeah,
I mean, make no mistake, it does feel good to play that game, and I've said this before. The game looks great, it sounds great, and it plays great, and the campaign was pretty solid in my opinion. It's just everything else. Again, it was just lacking in every other department. It was just lacking in content.
I think the legacy of Halo has always been about the multiplayer, right? They just wanted to get that right so much, but it's important though, for sure. Like the gameplay, Everyone's wanting to see how they go back to their roots. What does that feel like? It was a big deal for sure, man. Yeah, go there.
And I will praise 343 head over heels every single time for taking something that was a linear experience and making it into an open world experience. Because if they're working with the technology they've worked with for like the last 10 or 15 years, and to convert those ideas over to not only run at 60 frames per second on the Xbox Series S and X and all that other stuff, but also to be able to function on a PC, which is like working with like the PC platform is very interesting because you're going to get a lot of weird bugs for if someone's using an AMD card, if someone's using an NVIDIA card, if someone's using an AMD CPU, if someone's using an Intel CPU. Like those things stack and multiply quickly. Like on one of the games I worked on, we had to make special in-house computer builds that we had to swap out cards and make sure that we were servicing certain things, because we would sometimes get a bug that was very specific to just this one video card or just this one CPU isn't working for some reason. And if the thing is that when a bug is 1 in a million, if you're selling your game to 8 million people, that means that at least 8 people have it, and then that might compound even more as time goes on.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I think like I have my own thoughts about their decision to make the game an open world. But I think that's actually a topic for another stream. I think I'll actually ask you about that personally, Dia, in another stream, because I think we've probably talked long enough about this one.
Well, I guess that's about it, right?
Any other closing comments about this article, guys, you want to discuss? What do you feel?
Other than the fact that we completely diverged off topic a lot.
Well, it's still relevant to Halo. No, I wouldn't really say it's diverging.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's speaking to the development process and what's been happening lately with this video game. So it's important.
There is an aspect that you guys haven't kind of touched on, and I don't blame you for this, right? It's something that's like kind of abstract and hard to think about from a production perspective. But there is this tied idea to Armor Core monetization that I can see. I do believe that in an effort to make something look cool, they wanted to have the Armor Core system so they can put items and attachments to specific Armor Cores. Because if you make the customizations universal to every single type of core, you get into issues where things just don't look correct. And
clipping
polish
and stuff,
video games is a big seller nowadays, it feels like. And so it feels, from a development perspective, it feels like if I ship a game where something is clipping, and if I notice it, then I feel like I have to correct it. And so if they're shipping an Armor Core system where items are clipping into each other, even if players are happy with that, it might bother a developer to the point where they're like, I just want to make it so it's separate and it can stick to one piece of armor only exclusively or something like that. So the fact that they're shifting over to something more universal, is a lot of development time. So good on them for getting that. And I'm happy that they're reacting to player feedback based upon that. And it seems like they're doing something that's best of both worlds, because the third bullet point on that article says that some of the more unique armor cores, like the fracture armor cores, like Yoro, will still have its own armor core versus those items won't be universal. So I'm wondering, like, is that a best of both worlds for developers? Will players be happy with that? Are they going to be sad that their samurai helmet doesn't fit their Mark 7 armor? Like what? Like I think that's going to be the new debate when the system comes out. Is like how people feel about the type of customization they'll have at that point, and if they feel like it's unique enough or something, or if like the new battle pass will have enough items that that can go across their new non-armor core system, and if people are going to be happy with that. It's hard to say how these things are going to play out in advance, you know?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when this is implemented, because the battle pass is literally right around the corner, and all this they're adding tons of stuff by the looks of it. So like you said, lots of development time. They really have to grind on this one and to get this out, and it's going to come out.
If they can commit to the release dates.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I think the battle pass will come out in time. I think this battle pass will definitely come out on time. The way the marketing, it feels like from the marketing ramp up, everything should be good. But you know, again, don't work on the game, so I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I guess we'll bow out for now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for stopping by and giving your take and sharing your experience with us all. It's really, really beneficial and very priceless, my friend. Thank you.
I see myself coming back on this show.
Yes.
If you could be a regular, that'd be great.
If you could, for sure, man. We'd love to have you again if you could come back as a guest.
You definitely bring a lot of interesting perspective, especially you're in the AAA industry where me and Manina are just in the indie, and then everyone's like,
I'm just
we got the full spectrum. We got the full spectrum.
It's cool to have the whole spectrum. On top of that, I do think that the lack of transparency from AAA is slowly dissolving, and it would be nice to be able to be a part of that dissolving process, because I do think that helps a lot with the understanding between players and developers and why things are being made the way they are.
For sure,
Very
man.
true.
Yeah. Having that full
Hopefully-
spectrum of discussion is very important, because you're working in the industry directly. We're kind of on the outskirts of it, and Brian's looking outside in as literally just a consumer, as a gamer.
As the gamer, yeah.
And it's important to get the full spectrum of view
Yeah,
there.
so you've got like the three main perspectives in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll bring more guests like from different perspectives in the video game industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay tuned, guys, if you guys are watching.
Yeah, for you guys
stay
watching
tuned,
in chat,
take some
take some notes. Yeah, shows there's some love, man. He's really take time out of his day. He's working full time still, but he made time to make it today. So yeah, show him some love as well. And check out his podcast. There, you want to drop your information?
We're on hiatus right now. My co-host is he's really into the techno scene, so he's been working on his DJ skills. But yeah, if you go to, we're not on YouTube, but if you go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of the other big podcasts, you can go to Ramblations. That's RAMBLATIONS. We talk a lot about game development. We talk a lot about general topics that we can relate to game development. And you get a lot of unique takes on a lot of stuff, I feel like. And I like to call it the lunchtime table podcast, where we kind of we talk about things randomly and just let the flow go. But yeah, check us out. You can also find us on Twitter as well, too.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for your time. Hope you had enjoyed that. As always, please give us a subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook Live and Twitch. You can also check us out on Twitter as well, right, Ivan?
Yeah. Twitter. We're everywhere. We're gonna go to Spotify pretty soon. Now we're about to upload our first episodes, and so stay tuned. We'll definitely announce it on Twitter.
Stay tuned for that, guys. But for now, Captain signing off. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
Peace.
Privateer Broadcast.